Every now and then, when I'm not fighting in Smash Brothers, when I don't feel like immersing myself in a Zelda game, or when I don't feel like going fast in a Sonic game, I always like to play a casual platformer every now and then. Yoshi's Story seems to be that game that I was looking for. And yes, I did say seemed to be because, honestly speaking, I've never even took a crack at this game before making this video. So, why did I decide to do this game in the first place when I haven't even played it? Well, because 1, it won the vote in the last Beta Files video, and 2, I had a hunch that this video would be short to make compared to my last video on Luigi's Mansion. After buying it on the Virtual Console on my Wii U and playing it through, I can definitely say that it's a really fun casual game to play, and I wondered what was locked behind the game's happy-go-lucky nature and what has changed. So, today on the Beta Files, we're going to take a look at the beta of Yoshi's Story. Yoshi's Story was first shown off at Nintendo's 8th annual Shoshinkai in December of 1996, where it was originally called Yoshi's Island 64. Which is kind of ironic considering that the team that developed Yoshi's Island on the Super Nintendo is the same team for Yoshi's Story. We can get more information of Yoshi's Story's development by looking at some interviews and trailers. According to several interviews conducted by IGN, Yoshi's Story was going to be released on the Nintendo 64 disk drive in 1997. However, due to the delay and eventual cancellation of the American version of the disk drive, it was eventually moved to a cartridge release instead. You would think that the game would be reduced in size, but it actually grew in memory from 96 megabytes to 128 megabytes. So, why is this game still in 2D? Well, according to an interview conducted by Next Generations magazines in their February 1997 issue, Miyamoto specifically said that, and I quote, "When we started software development for the Nintendo 64, we wanted to make a kind of 2.5 dimension game, because this would be easier for consumers to start playing with. Eventually, we finally decided that this game would be Yoshi's Island 64. 3D graphics are fine, but for Yoshi's Island, we really want to have artistic graphics, so that the game is more like a moving picture or something like that, and this means doing it in 2D. Finally, in August 1997, Nintendo changed the game from Yoshi's Island 64 to Yoshi's Story, and, in December of that same year, the game was finally released in Japan. The international version of Yoshi's Story was a little bit delayed due to Nintendo of America wanting to raise the bar in terms of difficulty. With the added 3 months of extra time they've been given, the team added and changed some of the things in the international version of the game. However, I'll be going over those changes once we start talking about the changes between the Japanese and international versions. In the meantime, let's take a look at some footage of Yoshi's Island 64. There are 2 different videos that both come from the 1996 Shoshinkai event. We'll start by taking a look at this one. As soon as this footage starts, we can already see a difference right off the bat. This stage seems to be level 2 of page 1, or otherwise called Surprise. And comparing this taken screenshot of the beta to the actual level in the released version, there are some noticeable differences on the ground Yoshi is on. It seems that in the beta, the ground looked more like it was made of cardboard, compared to the actual level, where the level looked more stitched together. I can think of 2 different reasons as to why this is. They either changed the aesthetic of the level entirely, or that the Wiggler was supposed to be in other stages as, for example, level 1 of page 1 has the cardboard looking aesthetic. You can also see that in the footage, Yoshi collects a smiley flower, returning from the original Yoshi's Island game. Unfortunately, we never see these special flowers in the game, and I can only assume that they were replaced with the special hearts at some point. There's also a brief appearance of the question mark block in this part of the video, and it seems to be rotating horizontally, compared to the final game where it rocks side to side. Next is this segment, which bears a striking resemblance to page 4 level 3, or Piranha Grove. This level seems to have a more detailed background compared to the final version of the game, as well as more detailed wood platforms that Yoshi would jump across. Speaking of wooden platforms, the next section is the beta of the Jungle Hut stage, or level 1 of page 4. Just like Piranha Grove, the platforms and background have more details in them when comparing the final version. If you look at the top left of the screen though, you'll be able to catch a glimpse of tiny Shy Guys, which were removed from the final version of the game. Next up on the beta levels is this underground looking level, which many assume to be the early version of level 2 of page 4, Jungle Puddle. Unlike the other previous levels though, this level is completely different. For one, there are hills instead of these curving platforms. The water seems to actually be ice in the beta. How do I know that it's ice and not just different textured water? You'll find out later, but I will say you can also clearly see the presence of a giant Shy Guy, which was removed from the final game. The last thing to look at in the footage is the boss fight of Cloud Jin. There's not much here that has changed between the released and beta versions of the game in all honesty. The only thing I can note is that the background has changed, and when you hit Cloud Jin with an egg, he blinks red, while in the final version, he blinks yellow instead. Now let's take a look at this next footage, which, surprisingly, has a different title design for the game compared to the one shown before. And here we can see the Yoshi select screen. Besides the big text that says select player instead of select Yoshi, you can see the different colors of the Yoshis. You might notice that there are two Yoshi colors that are not in the final game, which are the purple and brown Yoshis. This brings me to the myth about the purple Yoshi being an unlockable color in the released version. Back in the day, it used to be a common fact that the purple Yoshi was an unlockable colored Yoshi in the game. While many websites that specialize in guides to unlock everything in a game have removed this, you can still find some cheat code websites that still say the purple Yoshi is unlockable, such as Cheat Code Central and GameSpot. Where did this misconception come from? I'm going to guess this one preview, where you can clearly see a brown and purple Yoshi. Plus, it's even more believable when you can clearly see in the opening intro of the game, there's clearly a purple Yoshi in the group of Yoshis, which makes the color more prominent to the fact that it's a selectable Yoshi. Why would these colors get removed from the game? I honestly can't say. Regardless, these two colors would never appear in the final version of the game, and are instead replaced with the regular pink colored Yoshi and the unlockable white Yoshi. The unlockable black Yoshi seems to have been in the game since the beta stages of development. Let's return to the early version of Jungle Puddle, because this video shows us more unused ideas, like these floating bubbles. And remember how I said that the water was ice instead of just different textured water? Well, we can see here that the Yoshi walks off the island and doesn't sink into the water. Instead, the Yoshi runs onto it and slides a little, making it very apparent that this water is actually solid ice, or, at the very least, coded to be a hard surface at this point in the development. This stage seems to be Shy Guy's ship, or level 4 of page 5. While there's not much here to compare other than these Goonies, which do act and are virtually the same in the final game, what we can see though, is a clearer picture of Yoshi's face when he flutter jumps. You can see he makes a similar expression akin to the one that the Yoshis do in Yoshi's Island, when they flutter jump. The final game has Yoshi do this blank expressionless look, which I'm not too sure why they changed it, because the old expression in the beta does give the Yoshis a better personality in my opinion. Next is the first reveal of the Bone Dragon in level 1 of page 2, the Bone Dragon Pit. And we can see right off the bat that he's clearly not a dragon made of bones in the first place. This dragon looks more lively, I guess you can say, compared to the final version. However, both dragons do still spit fire and get hit from ground pounding their heads. The last thing that this footage has to show us is the early version of Blarg, located in level 2 of page 2, which is called Blarg's Boiler. This version of Blarg seems to be just a sprite or still image that's just bouncing. The final version of Blarg is much lively as he has moving fingers, tongue, and blinking eyes. After looking through these short footages, the only thing left now is to head into the coding to see what was left within the game itself. Unlike the other betas of games I've covered in the past though, the unused content of this game is actually very minimum. We've only got a few regional differences between the different versions, a test level, secret coins, and one unused track to cover for this game. And as per usual, if you want to see the tiny amount of things that I don't talk about that are in the game, such as the debug menu, or the uncompiled source code left in the Japanese version, there's a link in the description of the video for you guys to check out. Let's start off with the very few test levels left in the game. And honestly, these test levels are kinda underwhelming. All of them are generic test levels, but they are important to the game's development, so let's get to them. Here's the very first test level. This test level was used to test Yoshi's jumping capabilities, and how far he can flutter jump. You can see that Yoshi starts off on a bone bridge platform here, and the developers probably just jumped off the platform, and let Yoshi flutter till he hit the ground, and measured how far Yoshi can flutter jump, indicated by the numbers you see in the black background. Next test map is just the same, except with cogwheels. Yay? This test map was probably used to test the physics of balancing on cogwheels. Nothing special, so let's move on. This last test map is basically the boss fight with Cloud Jin, except with a black background, and the camera never zooms out to show the entire stage. This was probably a test map to use to test the physics of the seesaws, and the seesaws themselves for the boss fight. Remember when I said that the international version was delayed for a little while after the Japanese release? Well, let's take a look at the differences between them right now. Word of note, there was a not-for-resale version of Yoshi's Story that was being played on Nintendo 64 kiosks back when Yoshi's Story was being released. As far as I can tell, these versions of the game are basically the Japanese versions of Yoshi's Story, and the only thing different is that labels saying not for resale and international version. Yup, that's it. As to why this version of the game is that expensive, you got me there because I'm not a hardcore Nintendo 64 collector. But I'm getting off topic. Let's talk about those regional differences. First to talk about is the different text seen in the options menu for the save data. As you can see, the Japanese version of the game is missing an option in the game. When we translate the text, we can see that there's no option that says continue data. The Japanese version didn't have a story mode save feature in the game, so this option to continue data was added into the international versions of the game. There's actually only one small thing that was also added to the international version that Japanese players didn't get. And it's these secret coined letter formations when you ground pound the ground as Super Happy Yoshi after eating a heart fruit. You can see here that one of these formations is the formation of a Y. Probably for, well, Yoshi. Why did they add this, besides the fact that the developers were given a little bit more time? I honestly don't know. Still, it is a nice little addition to the international version of the game, and it does make it feel that this version of the game is the better polished one. The last thing we have to talk about is this one unused track from the game. Let's listen to it. As you can hear, it has the specific sound effect when turning to the next page. This track might have been used as an opening to a new page in the story mode. While we have covered mostly everything of the beta of Yoshi's Story, there's one more thing we have to cover, and it's this Game Boy Advance tech demo of Yoshi's Story. This tech demo was shown when Nintendo wanted to show off the power of the Game Boy Advance during the reveal of the console itself. This demo is quite impressive. However, it was never fully developed into its own game. Luckily, 2 ROMs of the tech demo were leaked online some time ago. There's one with sound, and one without sound. The one with sound only has 2 music tracks, one of the main theme of Yoshi's Story, and the other one is the song called Yoshi Song, which is played in levels like level 1 of page 1. You can also hear that they just reused the sound effects from the original Yoshi story in the demo. Enough about the sound though. let's take a good look at that demo. The demo starts up with a rotating 3D model of Yoshi's Island, and by pressing start, we can start the game. Though this level is actually endless, and only ends when Yoshi dies and is taken to Baby Bowser's castle, just like in the original game. This demo actually has a lot of enemies. Like, a whole lot of enemies. Like, there are Bob-Ombs, Shy Guys, Bullet Bills, and Spike Balls. And remember that big Shy Guy in the beta? He's here too, apparently. I'm willing to bet that, because there are so many enemies, many players died while playing this demo, which could have been the entire point to begin with. The controls of the demo are as follows. A is jump, B is a dash button, L zooms in on Yoshi for a close-up, select takes away health for some reason, and holding start puts an egg on the side of the screen for no particular reason. Speaking of eggs, although we can see Yoshi has some eggs, he can't use them at all. In fact, Yoshi can't even eat enemies in this demo. Instead, the eggs actually relate to how much life you have, with 3 being the maximum amount when you have full health. Another small difference in this demo is that this is the only Yoshi in the game, and he has blue shoes instead of the iconic orange ones. And these message blocks don't tell you anything, and instead make a question mark balloon that you can destroy. And so those were the beta files of Yoshi's story. To be honest, there weren't that many big changes between the beta and the final versions of the game. But I don't think we're missing much in terms of what was left in the beta. And yeah, while a Game Boy Advance port of Yoshi's story would have been cool, it's nothing worth getting angry about. Yoshi's story is still a short, but good game to run through, and I do like the casual feeling of the game. With that being said, my name's Ninfan237, and I'll see you guys next time. Hey, thanks for watching this far into the video, because usually, or like, you know, some people don't watch this far into the video after I sign out of the official video, so thanks for watching this far. As per usual, this is the end card, so I don't have a script, and you're gonna be hearing me bumble and forget what to say. So anyways, so I grew from about like 150 to what, 200, about 270 subscribers, which was honestly pretty surprisingly fast for me. I was not expecting to reach nearly 300 subscribers, at least not until I uploaded this video. And I'd like to say thanks for subscribing, you guys, and if you haven't already, then, you know, subscribe, and if you are or just have, then click the bell to be notified whenever I'm gonna upload videos. As well as follow me on Twitter, at Ninfan237, if you want to see my gaming shenanigans, or like if you want to message me about something like beta files or something Nintendo or whatever. So at Ninfan237, that's my Twitter. As well as follow me on Twitch. It's the same username. Well, I mean, all the links will be in the description, so I guess you guys can go look down there, down in the description for all the links to Twitter and Twitch. And yeah, that should be about it. So here's where I would usually leave all the outtakes for the video, as in my previous videos, but this time's gonna be a little bit something different. So the next beta files will actually take me a while to do, because it's like the game that I plan to do for the next beta files, I was actually meaning to do a little bit like later on, like not now, but like a little bit later on after I do a couple of more other beta files episodes. But with the newest game in the series coming out in a few months, I feel like I should do it now for, like, you know, the celebration of that new game in the series, and some of you might already know what that is. So instead of the outtakes, I'm actually going to show you a trailer, I guess, of the next beta files, kind of a trailer. Anyways, yeah, so, that should be about it. So, yeah, that should be about it. So, Thank you guys so much for watching. My name's NinFan237, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Here's the trailer.